Captain Jake Morrison walked into the big meeting room where all the alien leaders sat. The room was huge and made of shiny metal and glass. Strange lights floated in the air, and the smell of different alien worlds filled his nose. He had been to this place many times before, but today felt different. Today would change everything. Behind him walked Ambassador Linda Carter. She carried a small data pad in her hands. Her face looked calm, but Jake could see the anger in her eyes. Linda had worked for 15 years trying to make peace with these aliens. She had asked them over and over to treat humans fairly. Each time they said no. The Zephyrian Prime Minister stood up. Her body looked like it was made of clear crystal that changed colors. When she was happy, she glowed blue. When she was angry, she turned red. Right now she was dark purple, which meant she felt disgusted. "The human request is denied again," she said. Her voice sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "Humans cannot have equal votes in our council. Your people are too young, too violent, too simple to understand how we run things." Jake felt his hands turn into fists. For 300 years, humans had fought wars for these aliens. When the Kafir Frex Empire attacked peaceful worlds, humans sent their ships to stop them. When space pirates raided trade routes, human soldiers died protecting alien cargo. When natural disasters hit alien planets, human rescue teams risked their lives to save people they had never met. But when humans asked for the same rights as other council members, the answer was always no. The Korthak representative spoke next. He looked like a giant bug with too many arms and eyes that glowed green. "Humans take too much space," he said in a voice that buzzed like angry bees. "The colony in the Vega system must be given to us. Humans have no right to be there." Linda stepped forward. "Sir, we have all the legal papers. The Vega system was empty when we arrived. No one lived there. No one claimed it. We followed all council rules when we built our colony." "The rules do not matter," said the bug-like alien. "We want that system. We need its minerals. Humans must leave." Jake could not believe what he was hearing. The Vega colony had been built by human workers. They had spent 5 years making the dead planet able to support life. They had built cities and farms and schools. 50,000 humans now called Vega home. And these aliens wanted to just take it away. The council voted. One by one, alien hands and claws and tentacles rose up. The Zephyrians voted against humans. The Korthak voted against humans. The Altarians, who humans had saved from slavery, just 10 years ago also voted against humans. Only 3 species voted to support humanity. It was not enough. "The decision is made," announced the council speaker. He was an old alien who looked like a walking tree. "Humans must leave the Vega system within 60 days. The system will be given to the Korthak Consortium." Jake felt something break inside him, not his heart but something deeper. His faith in doing the right thing. His belief that being good and helpful would be rewarded. His trust that these aliens were actually his friends. He looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some looked happy. Some looked sad. But none of them looked surprised. They had expected this to happen. They had planned for it. Linda put her hand on Jake's arm. She nodded to him. They had talked about this moment many times. They had hoped it would never come. But they were ready for it. Jake walked to the center of the room. His boots made loud sounds on the metal floor. Every alien eye in the room turned to look at him. The room became very quiet. "I have something to say," Jake announced. His voice was strong and clear. "For 300 years, humanity has served this council. We have fought your wars. We have died for your peace. We have built the machines that keep you safe. We have grown the food that feeds your people. We have done all of this while you treated us like servants." The tree-like speaker made an angry noise. "Human, you will not speak without permission." "I do not need your permission anymore," Jake said. "We asked for equal treatment. You said no. We asked for fair representation. You said no. We asked for respect. You said no. Well, now we have something to say to you." Jake turned to face all the aliens in the room. Humanity formally withdraws from the Galactic Council. We quit. We are done. Effective right now, all human military forces will return to human space. All human technical support will end. All human aid programs will stop. All human protection agreements are cancelled. The room exploded with noise. Aliens shouted and screamed and made strange sounds of panic. The Altarian delegate jumped up. You cannot do this. The Vrex Empire will attack us without human protection. That is your problem now, Linda said calmly. You should have thought about that before you voted against us. Jake and Linda turned and walked toward the door. Other human delegates followed them. Their footsteps echoed in the big room as aliens behind them argued and panicked. As they reached the door, Jake turned around one last time. You forgot something important, he called out. We were not your servants. We were your friends, but you never treated us like friends. Now you will learn what it means to face the galaxy alone. The door closed behind them with a final solid thud. 3 weeks after humans left the council, the first attack happened. The Vrex Empire had been waiting for this moment for 50 years. Their black ships moved like shadows through space, heading straight for the Altarian border worlds. On the planet Kepler-7, Altarian families looked up at the sky as red lights began to fall like burning rain. The Vrex ships had arrived, and there were no human patrol vessels to stop them. Commander Ben Hayes stood on the bridge of his ship, the TCS Guardian. He watched the battle happen on his main screen. Altarian defense ships tried to fight back, but they were weak. They had depended on human military support for so long that they had forgotten how to fight real wars. Sir, we're getting distress calls from the Altarian fleet, said his communications officer, Lieutenant Amy Clark. They're asking for immediate assistance. Ben's jaw tightened. Send them our response. We are no longer part of Council operations. They need to handle their own defense. But sir, there are millions of civilians on those planets. I know that, Lieutenant, but we warned them this would happen. They chose their side when they voted against us. On Kepler-7, the first Vrex landing ships touched down. Altarian civilians ran for shelter as alien soldiers poured out. The blue-skinned Altarians had always been peaceful people. They were traders and artists and teachers. They were not warriors. The Vrex were different. They lived for war. Their red eyes glowed with excitement as they advanced through Altarian cities. Behind them, their ships began bombing anything that looked important. Schools, hospitals, government buildings. Nothing was safe. Dr. Rachel Kim sat in her office on the Human Research Station at Tau Ceti. Around her, dozens of screens showed information from across the galaxy. Each screen monitored a different star system, watching for dangers like solar storms, asteroid strikes, or hostile fleets. Doctor, we're receiving shutdown orders for all monitoring stations outside human space, her assistant, Peter Grant, told her. Effective immediately, Rachel nodded sadly. Begin the shutdown sequence. Download all data to our archives first. These systems will be flying blind without our early warning network. One by one, the screens went dark. The Rigel system monitoring station shut down. The Vega system sensors went offline. The deep space listening posts stopped transmitting. For 3 centuries, these stations had protected everyone in the galaxy. Now they were gone. In the Nexus system, Merchant Captain Tony Rodriguez received frantic messages from his alien business partners. The jump gates that connected star systems were shutting down. These massive machines allowed ships to travel between stars in hours instead of years. Human engineers had built them and kept them running. Tony, you must help us, pleaded Kela, an Altarian trader he had worked with for 10 years. Without the jump gates, we cannot move our goods. Our trade routes are being cut off. Tony looked at his screen, showing dozens of jump gates going offline. I'm sorry, Kayla, my orders are to return all human personnel to our own space. We can't maintain your infrastructure anymore. But we have been friends for years. Yes, we have. But your government voted to take our colony away from us. Friendship works both ways. On Earth, President Marcus Thompson met with his military leaders. General Lisa Brooks spread out a holographic map of the galaxy. Red dots showed areas where fighting had started. Yellow dots marked systems where human forces were pulling out. The withdrawal is going according to plan, General Brooks reported. All human military assets will be back in our territory within 6 months. But sir, the situation is getting bad quickly. How bad? The president asked. The Vrex Empire has taken 4 Altarian worlds already. The Korthak Consortium is mobilizing their fleet against the Zephyrians. 3 different factions are fighting over the Nexus trade station. It's chaos out there. Any requests for help? Hundreds of them, sir. Every day we get more desperate messages. They're offering us anything we want. Territory, trade rights, technology, you name it. President Thompson was quiet for a long moment. He thought about all the times humans had asked for simple fairness and been told no. He thought about all the human soldiers who had died protecting ungrateful aliens. He thought about the families on Vega who were supposed to lose their homes to satisfy alien greed. Send the same response to all of them, he finally said. We are no longer members of the Galactic Council. We cannot provide military assistance to non-allied worlds. If they want our help, they are welcome to apply for membership in the new Terran Alliance. Back in Council space, panic was spreading. The Zephyrian Prime Minister called an emergency meeting. Only half the usual delegates showed up. The others were too busy dealing with wars and disasters in their own territories. We must find a solution, she said, her crystal body flashing, bright orange with worry. Without human support, we cannot maintain order. Perhaps we were too hasty in our last vote, suggested one of the smaller species representatives. Maybe we should reconsider the human proposals, the Korthak delegate buzzed angrily. Never. We will not bow to human demands. We can handle our own affairs. But even as he spoke, reports came in of pirate attacks on Korthak cargo ships. For decades, human patrol fleets had kept the space lanes safe. Now pirates roamed freely, hitting targets that had been protected for generations. On the former council world of Centauri Prime, Administrator Carl Johnson oversaw the evacuation of human civilians. Angry alien mobs had begun attacking human businesses and homes, blaming them for the chaos spreading through the galaxy. How many more shuttles do we need? Carl asked his aide. Another 50, sir. We have about 2,000 humans still on the planet. The locals are getting more violent every day. Carl looked out his office window at smoke rising from the human district. Get them all out, every last one. And make sure to take the power plant technicians and water treatment engineers with us. Sir, if we take the engineers, the city's infrastructure will collapse. Not our problem anymore. They wanted us gone, so we're leaving. All of us. 3 months after the human withdrawal, the first famine started on Rigel 4. Human agricultural specialists had taught the local aliens how to grow enough food for their population. But when the specialists left, the aliens discovered they had forgotten the old farming methods. Crops began to fail. Captain Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, stood on the bridge of his flagship as it entered the Sol system. Earth grew larger on the main screen, blue and beautiful and safe. Signal from Earth Command, sir, his communications officer reported. They want a full report on the galactic situation. Morrison smiled grimly. Tell them the situation is exactly what we predicted it would be. The galaxy is tearing itself apart, and it's not our problem anymore. 6 months had passed since humanity left the Council. The galaxy was now on fire. Admiral Susan Clark stood in the command center on Luna Station, watching reports stream in from across known space. Each report brought worse news than the last. The hegemony wars had begun and entire civilizations were being wiped out. Ma'am, incoming message from the Crystalline Alliance, her aide, Lieutenant Kevin Moore, announced. They're begging for military assistance against the Vrex Empire. Susan shook her head. Same response as always. We are not involved in council politics anymore. On her main screen, she watched a live feed from the battle at Kepler 442. Vrex, warships painted black as night, surrounded a small crystalline defense fleet. The crystalline ships looked like floating diamonds, beautiful but fragile. They never stood a chance. The Vrex had a simple battle plan. They would attack a system with overwhelming force, destroy all military targets, then land ground troops to take control. Any civilians who resisted were killed. Those who surrendered became slaves. Commander Ben Hayes piloted his scout ship through the wreckage of what used to be the Nexus Station. The great trading hub had been the heart of galactic commerce for 200 years. Now it was a field of twisted metal and frozen bodies. 3 different alien factions had claimed ownership of the station after humanity left. Instead of sharing it, they had fought over it. Their battle had torn the massive structure apart. Millions of civilians had died in the crossfire. "This is horrible," said his co-pilot, Sergeant Danny Fox. "All those people dead for nothing." Ben guided their ship around a chunk of debris that used to be a shopping district. Families had lived and worked there just weeks ago. Now there was only silence and death. "This is what happens when reasonable people leave," Ben said quietly. "The unreasonable people take over." On the planet Zephyr Prime, the Crystal Cities were under siege. Korthak invasion forces had surrounded the capital, demanding surrender. The insect-like aliens wanted the planet's energy crystals, which powered much of their technology. Prime Minister Sela stood in her crystal palace, watching enemy forces advance through her city. Her body flickered between colors as emotions overwhelmed her. Fear made her turn pale blue. Anger flashed red through her form. Desperation painted her yellow. "Send another message to Earth," she ordered her aide. "Tell them we will give them anything they want. Territory, trade rights, advanced technology. We just need their help." "Ma'am, this is the 15th message we've sent. They haven't responded to any of them." Sela's form darkened to deep purple. She remembered the day she voted against giving humans equal rights in the council. It had seemed like the obvious choice then. Humans were so young, so violent, so different from the refined alien civilizations. Now those refined civilizations were slaughtering each other, while the violent humans stayed safely in their own territory. The war had spread beyond individual battles. Trade routes that had existed for centuries were now battlefields. Refugee ships fled from system to system, finding no safe harbor. Pirates and criminals, no longer held in check by human patrol fleets, raided helplessly weak targets. Captain Tony Rodriguez flew his cargo ship through what used to be safe space near the Altera system. His sensors picked up 3 different pirate groups in the area. Before the human withdrawal, this region had been one of the safest in the galaxy. "Tony, please help us," came a weak transmission from an Altarian passenger ship. "We are carrying refugees from Kepler-7. Our engines are damaged. Pirates are closing in." Tony looked at his tactical display. The Altarian ship was surrounded by 6 pirate vessels. He could probably drive them off if he wanted to fight, but his orders were clear. Avoid all conflict with non-human vessels. "I'm sorry," he transmitted back. "I can't get involved. Try to reach the Vega system. It's in human space now. You might find sanctuary there." But Tony knew they would never make it that far with damaged engines. On Earth, President Thompson met with his emergency council. The refugee crisis was getting worse every day. Millions of aliens were fleeing the war zones, heading for human space because it was the only safe place left. "Sir, we have 12 refugee fleets waiting at our borders," reported Foreign Minister Nancy White. "The largest one has 500,000 Altarian civilians. They're running out of food and medical supplies." "What are they asking for?" Thompson wanted to know. "Temporary sanctuary while they look for a new home. They're willing to pay with whatever they have left." Thompson thought about this. Many of these refugees came from worlds that had voted against human rights. Their governments had treated humans as second-class citizens. But these were not government officials. These were ordinary families who had lost everything. "Set up processing centers at the edge of our territory," he decided. "We'll provide humanitarian aid, but we're not letting armed vessels into human space. And make it clear, this is temporary help, not permanent settlement." The irony of the situation was not lost on anyone. The species that had called humans too violent to have equal rights were now begging those same humans for protection from their own violence. Admiral Morrison received a priority message from Earth Command while his fleet patrolled the outer edge of human space. The message contained an unprecedented offer from the remaining council members. "Sir, you need to see this," his communications officer said. The Council is offering to dissolve itself and reform with humans as equal partners. They're calling it the New Galactic Alliance. Morrison read through the proposal. The surviving alien governments were offering humans everything they had asked for 300 years ago. Equal representation, shared military command, fair trade agreements, and recognition of all human territorial claims. Too little, too late, Morrison said, deleting the message. Send them our standard response. Humanity is no longer interested in galactic politics. But the truth was more complex. Humanity was interested in galactic politics. They just weren't interested in saving civilizations that had refused to treat them with basic respect. Deep in human space, construction crews worked around the clock to build new colonies and space stations. The resources that had once been spent protecting ungrateful aliens were now being used to expand human territory and improve human lives. Dr. Rachel Kim stood in the control room of the new Terra Station, humanity's most advanced research facility. The station had been built with alien refugees in mind, not as guests but as potential citizens of a new kind of galactic community. "How many applications do we have so far?" she asked her assistant. "Over 2 million, from 43 different species. They all want to become part of human society rather than return to their homeworlds." Rachel nodded. These were aliens who had lived among humans and learned to appreciate human values like equality, fairness, and respect for all species. They understood what the Council had thrown away. Back in Council space, the last free Altarian world was about to fall. The Vrex fleet had surrounded Altera itself, the species' homeworld. 5 billion Altarians waited for death or slavery. Prime Minister Kayla sent one final message to Earth. "We were wrong. We see that now. We should have listened to you. We should have treated you as equals. If you save us, we will spend the rest of our lives making up for our mistake." The message was received, filed, and forgotten. Humanity had moved on. 2 years had passed since humanity walked away from the Council. The galaxy had become a graveyard of dead civilizations. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, looking out at the refugee camps that now surrounded Earth's moon. Millions of alien civilians lived in temporary shelters waiting for their asylum applications to be processed. These were not the proud Council delegates who had once looked down on humanity. These were broken survivors who had watched their worlds burn. They came with nothing but the clothes on their backs and stories of horror that would haunt them forever. "Sir, we have another delegation requesting an emergency meeting," Lieutenant Amy Clark reported. "This time it's what's left of the Council leadership." Morrison sighed. "How many of them are still alive?" 17 species out of the original 43. The rest are either extinct or under Vrex occupation. Morrison thought about that number. 26 entire species had been wiped out in just 2 years. Billions of individuals, each with their own hopes and dreams, had died because their leaders chose pride over wisdom. The delegation arrived on a battered old transport ship. Ambassador Linda Carter met them at the docking bay. She barely recognized some of them. The Altarian Prime Minister Kayla had lost one of her arms in a bombing. The Korthak representative was missing half his insect-like limbs. The Zephyrian delegate's crystal form was cracked and dim. They were escorted to a simple meeting room, nothing like the grand council chambers they were used to. The furniture was basic human design, functional but not impressive. There were no floating lights or exotic decorations. "Thank you for seeing us," Kayla said. Her voice was weak and filled with pain. "We know we have no right to ask, but we need your help." President Thompson entered the room, flanked by his military advisors. He took a seat across from the alien delegates. His expression was calm but cold. "You have 5 minutes to make your case," he said simply. Kayla leaned forward desperately. "President Thompson, we were wrong. We see that now. We should have treated humans as equals from the beginning. We should have listened to your warnings about the Vrex. We should have valued your friendship instead of taking it for granted." "Yes, you should have," Thompson agreed. "But you didn't. What exactly are you asking for now?" The Zephyrian delegate spoke up, her voice like wind chimes in a funeral. "We want to propose a new council, a true partnership between all species. Humans would have equal representation, equal command authority, equal territorial rights. Everything you asked for before. Interesting, Thompson said. And what would humanity gain from this arrangement? Our combined knowledge, our remaining resources, our loyalty, Kayla said. We have learned from our mistakes. We understand now that strength comes from unity, not domination. Thompson was quiet for a long moment. He studied each alien face, seeing the desperation there. These were leaders who had once commanded vast fleets and ruled over star systems. Now they were beggars asking for scraps. Your offer is 20 years too late, he finally said. We extended the hand of friendship repeatedly. You slapped it away every time. The galaxy is burning because you chose arrogance over cooperation. But, sir? The Korthak delegate buzzed frantically. If you don't help us, the Vrex will eventually come for humanity too. They won't stop until they control everything. General Lisa Brooks spoke up from behind Thompson. Let them come. Humanity has spent 2 years preparing our defenses while you wasted time fighting each other. We're not the weak species you remember from the Council days. This was true. While the galaxy burned, humanity had been busy. Human shipyards worked around the clock, building the most advanced fleet in history. Human scientists had developed new weapons and defenses. Most importantly, human society had been strengthened by the addition of millions of alien refugees who brought their own skills and knowledge. Please, Kayla begged, tears flowing from her blue eyes. There are still billions of innocent people out there. They don't deserve to die for the mistakes their leaders made. You're right, Thompson said. They don't deserve it, but neither did the human colonists you wanted to throw off their own world. Neither did the human soldiers who died protecting your people, while you denied them basic rights. Linda Carter stepped forward. There is one option, she said quietly. All eyes turned to her. Humanity has established the Terran Union. It's a new alliance based on equality and mutual respect. Any species that wants to join can apply, but they have to meet our requirements. What requirements? Kayla asked eagerly. Complete integration, Linda explained. No separate governments, no special privileges, no claims of superiority. Every member species gets equal representation, but they also accept human values. Democracy, individual rights, equality under the law. The alien delegates looked at each other uncertainly. What Linda was describing was not a military alliance or trade agreement. It was the end of their old way of life. They would no longer be independent civilizations ruling their own territories. They would become citizens of a human-led union. It's cultural absorption, the Zephyrian delegate protested. You're asking us to give up who we are. No, Thompson corrected her. We're asking you to give up the attitudes that led to this disaster. You can keep your languages, your arts, your traditions, but you can't keep treating some species as more valuable than others. Captain Tony Rodriguez had been listening from the back of the room. He stepped forward with a data pad in his hands. I've been running supply missions to the refugee camps, he said. I've talked to thousands of survivors from dozens of different worlds. You want to know what they all say? They wish their governments had accepted human partnership from the beginning. He activated his data pad, showing refugee testimonies. Here's a Korthak engineer who says human equality proposals would have prevented the resource wars. Here's an Altarian teacher who wishes her children could grow up in human schools where all species are treated the same. Here's a crystalline artist who wants to help build a society where creativity matters more than which planet you came from. The delegates listened to voice after voice, all saying the same thing. The ordinary citizens understood what their leaders had refused to. See? Humanity's strength came not from military power, but from their belief that everyone deserved equal treatment. The offer stands, Thompson said, standing up to leave. Complete integration into the Terran Union with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. Or you can continue trying to rebuild your old failed system. But we won't be part of it. As the human delegation left the room, Kayla called out desperately. How long do we have to decide? Thompson paused at the door. Until the Vrex reach your last stronghold. I estimate about 6 months. After the humans left, the alien delegates sat in silence. Outside the station's windows, They could see human ships moving with purpose and confidence. The species they had once dismissed as inferior was now the only hope for galactic civilization. "What choice do we have?" the Korthak delegate finally buzzed. "Join them or die." "It's not about choice anymore," Kayla said sadly. "It's about admitting we were wrong. From the very beginning, the humans tried to warn us this would happen. They tried to show us a better way. We were too proud to listen." The Zephyrian delegate's crystal form flickered weakly. Perhaps being part of something larger is better than being the ruler of nothing. Deep in space, Vrex Emperor Kazoth received reports of the meeting from his spies. The massive red-skinned alien smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. His empire now controlled 2/3 of the galaxy, but the richest prize still awaited him. "Let them crawl to the humans," he growled to his generals. "It will make conquering both of them even sweeter." 5 years had passed since humanity walked away from the Council. The old galactic order was gone forever, but something new had taken its place. President Marcus Thompson stood before the Grand Assembly of the Terran Union, addressing delegates from 67 different species. The Great Hall on New Geneva Station buzzed with the sounds of a dozen different languages being translated in real time. Unlike the old council chambers, every seat here was the same size and importance. "Today marks the 5th anniversary of our union," Thompson announced. "What started as humanity's refusal to accept second-class citizenship has become the galaxy's greatest experiment in true equality." In the audience, former Altarian Prime Minister Kayla sat next to human Admiral Morrison. She now served as the Union's Minister of Refugee Affairs, helping integrate the millions of survivors who had fled the galactic wars. Her blue skin bore scars from the bombing of her homeworld, but her eyes held hope again. "5 years ago you wouldn't have looked at me as an equal," she had told Morrison once. "Now my daughter goes to school with human children and dreams of becoming a starship captain. That's the miracle you've given us." The Vrex Empire still existed on the far edge of the galaxy, but they had learned to fear the growing power of the Terran Union. Emperor Kazoth's forces had tried to invade Union space twice. Both times they had been crushed by the combined fleets of dozens of species fighting as one. Admiral Susan Clark stood on the bridge of the TUS Harmony, the Union's flagship. The ship itself was a symbol of their new society. It had been designed by crystalline architects built with Korthak engineering, powered by Zephyrian energy crystals, and commanded by humans who treated every crew member as family. "Admiral, we're receiving a distress call from the frontier," her communications officer reported. "A Vrex raiding fleet is attacking the colony on Kepler 9. All battle groups, prepare to jump," Clark ordered. "Let's remind Emperor Kazoth why he should stick to his own territory." The Union fleet that responded was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human destroyers flew alongside Altarian science vessels. Korthak fighters swarmed around crystalline carriers. Former enemies now fought side by side, protecting colonies that belonged to all of them. On Kepler 9, the colonists watched their defenders arrive with tears of relief. The colony was home to members of 12 different species, all living together as Union citizens. When the Vrex attacked, humans and aliens had stood together to defend their shared home. Dr. Rachel Kim walked through the rebuilt Nexus station, now the Union's primary trade hub, where once 3 alien factions had fought a bloody war over control. Now millions of beings from across the galaxy came to trade, learn, and build better lives together. The station's market sold goods from hundreds of worlds. Human-grown food sat next to Altarian crystal art. Korthak tools were displayed alongside Zephyrian energy devices. But more important than trade was the sight of alien children playing together in the station's parks, speaking a dozen languages but sharing the same games. "It's working," Rachel told her assistant Peter Grant as they watched a group of young beings from 6 different species collaborate on a science project. "The integration is actually working." In the Union's capital system, former council worlds that had once rejected human membership now competed to attract human investment and immigration. The Zephyrian homeworld had rebuilt its cities using human architectural principles that emphasized accessibility for all species. The surviving Korthak colonies had adopted human legal systems that protected individual rights over collective power. But the Union's greatest success was not military or economic. It was cultural. Captain Tony Rodriguez, now commanding the Union's largest civilian transport fleet, carried more than just goods between star systems. He carried ideas, dreams, and proof that different species could truly live as equals. "Taryuan, know what surprised me most?" Tony told his crew during a stop at the Vega system. "It wasn't how quickly the aliens adapted to human values. It was how much humans learned from them. We're not the same species we were 5 years ago. We're better." The Vega colony had become a model for the Union's success. The world that the old council had tried to give to the Korthak was now home to beings from 23 different species. They had turned the planet into a garden world where different cultures blended into something entirely new. President Thompson toured the colony with its governor, former merchant Danny Fox. They walked through cities where human skyscrapers stood next to crystalline spires and Altarian water gardens. Different architectural styles had been blended into something beautiful and uniquely Union. "The council delegates who voted to take this place away from us should see it now," Fox said. "They thought they were just redistributing territory. They never understood that we were building something special here." Thompson nodded, watching alien children play human games while human adults learned alien arts. They saw planets and resources. We see homes and communities. The Union's military had also evolved beyond anything the old council could have imagined. General Lisa Brooks commanded not just human forces, but integrated battle groups where different species contributed their unique strengths. Korthak engineers maintained the ships while crystalline navigators plotted courses through hyperspace. Zephyrian energy experts powered the weapons while human tacticians coordinated the battles. "We're not just stronger than the old council forces," Brooks explained to her staff. "We're smarter. When every species contributes equally, you get solutions that no single culture could have developed alone." This had been proven repeatedly in battles against the Vrex Empire. The Union's combined tactics, technologies, and strategies had turned the tide against an enemy that had seemed unstoppable just years before. But perhaps the most important change was in how conflicts were resolved. Ambassador Linda Carter, now the Union's Secretary of Internal Affairs, had helped establish courts where disputes between species were settled by judges from multiple worlds. The old council's system of majority rule had been replaced by careful deliberation that considered every perspective. "We learned from humanity's example," explained Judge Kayla, a former Zephyrian diplomat who now served on the Union's Supreme Court. "Power without wisdom leads to tyranny. Wisdom without power leads to irrelevance. But when you combine both with genuine respect for others, you get justice." The Union had also learned from the Council's mistakes in dealing with aggressive species. When the Helix Confederation tried to raid Union trade routes, they weren't simply defeated and left to rebuild. They were offered a choice: integrate into Union society or face permanent isolation. Most chose integration. As Thompson concluded his anniversary address, he looked out at the diverse faces in the assembly hall. 5 years ago, many of these beings had been enemies or strangers. Now they were citizens of something greater than any of them could have built alone. "The galaxy shattered when humanity walked away from the Council," he said. "But from those fragments, we built something stronger. We built a society based not on who is superior, but on what we can accomplish together." The applause that followed came from beings who had once looked down on humanity as inferior. Now they understood what the humans had been trying to teach them all along, that true strength came not from domination, but from cooperation. Not from taking what you wanted, but from building something worth sharing. In the far reaches of space, Vrex Emperor Kazoth watched the Union's expansion with growing worry. His empire was still large, but it was stagnant and brittle. The Union grew stronger every day, not through conquest but through voluntary membership. Even some of his own people were beginning to ask why they couldn't have what the Union offered. The galaxy had indeed shattered when humanity walked away. But from the ruins had risen something unprecedented in galactic history, a civilization that truly believed all species were equal, and that civilization was just getting started.